changing your life one story at a time. This is the Chicken Soup for the Soul podcast with Editor-in-Chief Amy Newmark.
Hey, it's Amy Newmark with your daily dose of Chicken Soup for the Soul inspiration. It's Thoughtful Thursday, and I want to share a story with you that was written by an old friend of mine and that affected the way I deal with my own father. The story appeared in Chicken Soup for the Soul, Food and Love, which is a book about all those connections between food and love, because of course there is a major connection there. Food is one of the top ways that we express our love for people. By making food for them or providing food for them, we are nurturing them and we're showing them that we care. And dads, who are usually not known for their cooking skills, have to find their own ways to do this. In my friend Priscilla Dan Courtney's case, her father did it with bagels, as she tells us in her story called A Daughter's Toast to a Father's Bagel. Now, let me say, I spent a lot of time in Priscilla's house when I was a little kid. We were best friends, and I would sleep over there and have breakfast with the family, including with Priscilla's very cool father, who was a senior executive at CBS. I was hardly allowed to ever watch television at home. But at Priscilla's house, TV was definitely allowed, as long as we were watching one channel, CBS. Priscilla's father, Michael, loved bagels, and Priscilla grew up eating them. Her father would make breakfast sandwiches for her, bagels covered with butter and bacon. And her father, Michael, would only buy bagels from one place, the famous H&H in New York City. H&H was probably the most famous bagel maker in the United States. My husband is a bagel fanatic, and we used to make pilgrimages to H&H to pick up bagels to take back to Connecticut and store in the freezer. We would go miles out of our way if we happened to be in the city, just to visit H&H and get a big bag of bagels, which I must admit we would start eating in the car before we even got to the end of that block of West 46th Street. One day, and I still laugh about this and tease him about this, my husband was returning from a business meeting in the city, and he called me from the sidewalk outside H&H. It was the early afternoon, and surprisingly, H&H was closed. And my husband, Bill, was standing there looking in the glass door, and he could see the bagels and he could see people, but the door was locked. And he said there was some kind of tax notice taped to the window glass. So I went on Google while I was on the phone with him, and I learned that H&H had just been shut down only minutes before he got there for failing to pay their New York taxes. They owed hundreds of thousands of dollars. My husband had just missed getting the last H&H bagels ever made because H&H never reopened. So there he was on the cell phone with me, peering in that locked glass door at those fresh bagels that he couldn't have. Anyway, I tell you that so you'll understand why Priscilla's father, Michael, kept providing her with H&H bagels even when she went to college. Once a week, a large padded manila envelope would arrive, stuffed with bagels, and poppy seeds and sesame seeds would sprinkle their way into Priscilla's dorm room. She shared more than she ate, but the smell made her feel at home. Then, when Priscilla decided to transfer from college in upstate New York to college in Boulder, Colorado, and ride her bike between them, the bagels followed her, arriving at the 10 mail stops she had identified along the way. Her father never missed a bagel shipment. Once Priscilla was officially living in Boulder, the bagels kept coming, but now via FedEx to keep their freshness. And when Priscilla, who is Jewish, married a Catholic, and she and her husband needed to decide how to raise their children, they compromised. They agreed to raise the children with meditation, both Hanukkah and Christmas, and bagels. Now, eventually, bagels made it to Boulder, and Priscilla felt she had to confess to her father. She called him one Friday evening and said, "Dad, I think we finally found a good bagel store out here." He was quiet, and Priscilla went on to say he didn't need to keep sending the bagels. He was still quiet. And then she realized her mistake, and she quickly added, or maybe just don't send them as frequently. Priscilla had realized something. Sending those bagels was the way that her father nurtured her and kept himself in the parenting game with his grown, married daughter who was a parent herself, and now she was taking that away from him. So I remembered that story, And when my 87-year-old father, who is an apple pie aficionado, offered to get me his favorite kind of apple pie a couple of months ago and have it delivered to my house, I said yes. And then I served it at a dinner party. And I told my father all about how much everyone loved the apple pie. And one final note, Priscilla's dad, Michael Dan, did die a few weeks ago at age 94, and we will miss him. I'm Amy Newmark. Tomorrow is Friend Friday, and I have a special guest planned for you. Have you ever wondered what it's like to go viral? We'll be talking to the husband of Angry Splash Mountain Lady. And if you haven't heard about her, go ahead and Google Angry Splash Mountain Lady before you listen tomorrow. And if you'd like to read more about Chicken Soup for the Soul, food and love, please go to our website, chickensoup.com.